Welcome to Philadelphia Walks PTSD. My name is Sharon Cole, or Sharon, or Cole, whatever you want to refer to me as. No big deal. Been called everything under the sun, and in a good way. Don't care. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. As they say, of course, words do hurt people if they're used with a certain type of intention. And even the strongest among us have crumbled down into tears and curled up in a ball because of maybe not understanding why people are doing something or calling them names or whatever, especially when you're younger and, going through school, even college. People have committed suicide and everything else because of jackasses. So if people, that could be part of the problem. So anyway, I won't... I'm about life. I want people to be raised up. I want them to be happy. I don't want them to be harassed. Nice try, though, because I know people have tried and they can put on some heavy stuff out there in the atmosphere, and I know it can be put on people. It's a little different than people actually having or believing that they have an issue. There are issues to sort out from many people's upbringings and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that keeps people oppressed, and oppression usually keeps people in a state of depression. But just imagine, or humor me for a second, what if wave frequencies in your area can actually cause depression? Or what if you wind up with the good stuff? Or maybe big pharma. I don't usually, root for big pharma because I'm more of a holistic person, but what if they try to outdo those who try to oppress and depress people by creating chemicals that can outdo whatever wave frequencies are creating a bundle of either nerves or depression or sadness or what have you. So anyway, that's just a theory. But here we are on day 79 of a 365-day campaign to raise money for life stolen and lost. The fourth Monday of January 2011, when I was made to believe I'd be murdered in my apartment by a series of orchestrated events. And yes, they were orchestrated. I don't like orchestrated people. I hate them. I wish they would get a life and actually learn how to live freely. So if people are overly timed and they set up street theater and this and that and the other, then they're not focusing on how to have a quality life. They're focusing on how to ruin somebody else's life. So anyway, I realize some people might live in orchestrated communities in order to protect, kind of create their own world to protect themselves from other things. But in my case, it was used to harass, intimidate, annoy, irritate, and everything else. I didn't grow up I didn't even know orchestrated communities existed. I just was out here doing what the average normal person does. So, we're supposed to go to school? Okay, I guess I'll do that. We're supposed to do this. We're supposed to... So and then at some point something clicked in and I wanted to pursue writing. Writing worked for me. It gave me a voice and I had a brain for it. There was a certain brain set, and people sometimes are better at this, they're better at that, and writing worked for my brain. It's more like in the logic realm and piecing things together, puzzling things together and stuff like that. So I wound up in nonfiction writing. But anyway, it's day 79 and I wanted to talk about two or a couple more examples today of the 72,000 layer cake of harassment and weird stuff that these people are willing to do in order to mess with your mind, or mind F, if you will. And aside from being made to believe I'd be murdered in my apartment, it was bad. I was convulsing and I couldn't even hold the phone. I was trembling, convulsing, more is the better word. And even when I tried to call my mom the next morning, because this happened in the wee hours, like the witching hour, I got the message of, we're sorry, the phone number you're trying to reach has been disconnected, which means that her phone lines were cut. I didn't want to scare her because she didn't know anything was going on. But it's like, clearly somebody made sure that I couldn't reach my mom. And I had to go through a roundabout way to reach her. On the one day you would actually call your mom for certain, you know what I mean? Or whomever you're closest to, a parent, guardian, aunt, uncle, what have you. If you can't even reach the one person you would want to talk to, if you were if you were scared and made to believe you'd be murdered in your apartment, then that's a major setup. And she was living in Jacksonville, Florida at the time with my aunt. So that's a setup. So if that weren't enough, the game kicked off. And all kinds of things would happen. But one of the things that consistently happened would be that people would mock or imitate things that occurred in the privacy of my own home. Some things were public, some were private. So I'll give a few examples. One would be, and this example occurred just in the lead up before I was scared out of my apartment. And this was, I had joined Facebook way back in, I guess, 8, 9, 10. I was late to the party on Facebook and things like this. So, in fact, I would get rid of Facebook shortly into 2011 because what was going on was so bad that it just kept feeding negativity, 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 negativity. And it's like, you know what? These people have nothing better to do with their lives, so they're willing to keep feeding something through the only way they can, maybe through social media, to attack other people. So instead of being uplifting, so but in weird, creepy ways, not, So leading up to 2011, I would be hanging out with someone who was dating another person, and this would be a lesbian couple who I met through dragon boat racing. And I was heavily involved in the LGBT community back then. I'm not really involved in any community now because whatever community you wind up in, they will use whatever it is, they will use that community to make it, and you start to make it seem like they're part of it. So it's kind of a thing of, if you're not too descriptive about yourself, then fewer things that can be used against you per se. So it doesn't matter. I could have been in a Christian church and they would have made it seem like those people were bad. So that's sort of a thing. So anyway, that's what I perceive now. Or did people infiltrate the LGBT community? So that's another thing, because they're not looking very good and valuable for the LGBT community, and they're heavily involved, some of these people. So anyway, I was dragon boat racing, met this couple. They had me walk their dog. Or they asked, like, can you walk our dog? Because, we're going to go to North Carolina, or we're going to do this, whatever. So I agreed, and I was friends with them on Facebook. And there was a day when I was being kind of cute because we had incredibly cold weather. We had a lot of snow back then. Anyway, I miss the snow. We don't get as much now. But anyway, I wrote on there that, it was so cold and I had been out walking dogs that I kind of joked, like, I'm hugging my heater. And I lived in a row home that was converted to apartments. So it was like a radiator that heated. It's, one of those things that stand against the wall, and it's it was built into the apartment. So it wasn't one that you purchase on your own, but I would kind of joke, like, I'm hugging the radiator because it's so cold. And radiators are kind of these things where it takes a while for the heat to emanate out into the apartment. So anyway, I go on Facebook and I realize that of this couple, we'll just say their names are like Heather and Karina or something like that, Katrina or something. Katrina was mocking me. It seems very childish, but I realized if they know that if they do enough of it, it really tears away a person's brain. If I were a younger high school person or even in college, it would hurt 10 times worse. I'm older. I'm used to being alone. I grew up sort of as, a little bit of a loner and never really knew how to fit in. And really, age-wise, I was kind of on my own. Like, everyone was a little bit older, a little bit younger. So I just learned how to put up with being alone and entertaining myself. So their actions didn't affect me. They affected me in the sense that I thought it was odd. And I'm like, why would they do that? That's weird. It didn't really hurt me deeply, that particular one. It was just more like, oh, that's weird. Is she actually... That's like a blatant mockery of me saying that I'm hugging my radiator. Because this Katrina or Karina or whatever her name is, she actually posted, oh my gosh, I'm hugging my radiator, as if to mock my cuteness or whatever. I don't really know. I don't know why she did it. But I'm pretty certain it was intended to be dumb, or to mock me for being cute, or as part of the setup prior to me feeling as though I'd be murdered in my apartment. So whatever unfolded that fourth week of January 2011, I wrote a whole book about the first 7 days. That is a whole time warp of, I was pushed through like some sort of portal hole, I swear to God. Like, all kinds of things happened, and everybody probably has their own idea of what went on, and they're probably all wrong. But anyway, so that would be one example. Other things would be Facebook foibles would keep going on, which is why I got rid of Facebook and didn't have it for like 7 years. But that would be, say, in my desperation to keep finding people who I could trust, I reached out to someone who I had known for a couple of years, and I was like, I have tickets to go see this symphony thing at the Kimmel Center. Do you want to go along? She's like, sure. In a way, she kind of acted like she thought it was funny. This is someone named Valerie or what have you. So, it's a thing where it's like I felt forced to do a whole bunch of things, and then other people would kind of mock it, like, oh my God, Sharon's being social. It was that immature and retarded. Meanwhile, I'm older and have and had all this work experience and other experiences. I was sort of pursuing something else totally in general when these people came crashing into my world behaving like high school students or less. Their brains are actually smaller than high school students. So anyway, I was like, I have tickets. You want to go? Like, I really was trying to like figure out how to keep as normal a life as possible. I don't often go to the symphony, and it does cost money. So, but anyway, so we went, and later I would see on Facebook. This was in the first couple months before I got rid of Facebook. That a friend of hers posted under her, saying, because Valerie must have said something about going to the thing, and the friend said, "Oh, it's almost like I was right there with you, listening and watching." Right, the way she commented, it made it seem like it was very creepy, as if she were stalking or if she could hear through. It was, the comment was so bad that it was one of the impetuses for me wanting to get rid of Facebook. There were a couple more. There was even Katrina's friend, Heather or whatever. She even posted a picture being hogtied in the basement as if she were kidnapped with a stick in her mouth and everything. This was a long time ago on Facebook. That might have been flagged in today's very more, sensitive nature of Facebook, but it fed the idea of, oh my God, all this stuff is happening to Sharon, and we're gonna human traffic her, or she's gonna be kidnapped. All of that is to feed the brain to scare someone even more, even more, even more. But she actually this person is a therapist today, but she actually posted a picture, and I may or may not have screenshotted it and saved it. So she actually posted a picture being hogtied in a basement. And this is someone who looked into living with a group of people, like sharing a house. A lot of people would live with other people, and like you would have to, back then they had these things like you would have to interview to get in. It's sort of like West Philly does a lot of collectives or whatever, and you have to interview to get into the house. It's in that realm, even though she wasn't in West Philly. So she was also feeding the fear-mongering machine, and someone who went on to become a therapist. Actually, I believe she became a therapist or a social worker, whatever, actually posted a picture of herself, a woman, being hogtied in the basement of, I'm guessing, the house where she lived. I really don't know. So that's another thing. In addition, there was an evening when I got really angry. There was a coalescing of events of someone who I became close to because of all that was happening. I kind of got close to someone who seemed to know a little bit more about it. So I built there was a bond being created. And then there was this idea of, oh, well, she doesn't feel as close to you as you feel to her, or whatever. So this idea was created by 3 different people who texted and emailed. It sounds like a silly drama, but it's very indirect. Like someone emailed saying, Sharon, someone was asking about you. They were wondering if you were, attached or with someone. And I responded, oh, I'm already spoken for. I really wasn't, but I didn't want to have to deal with the people who were emailing me because I didn't really love them that much. So, or their friends. So, and this is much later. This would be like 2015. It's when the Pope came in. Into Philadelphia. And another friend texted saying, oh, you want to get coffee? We can go to Square One. We used to have a Square One cafe here in the neighborhood. But the way he worded it was, we should go to Square One. But the way it came through was, now we're back to Square One because now we have to go back and try to find someone for Sharon, as if they kept arranging people to be in my life. And she won't accept these people. She thinks they're not good enough. And they weren't good enough for me. Sorry, I do have higher standards, and I won't put up with people who I'm going to, feel disgusted by, basically. So anyway, and I mean that from the deepest depths of my soul. That created a lot of anger in the moment. It was like a vortex of energy of like, so I crashed down. I had a bowl of like yogurt or whatever, and I threw it on the ground, and it did break in a couple pieces or whatever. I show up to a cheap donation-based collective yoga thing. It used to be over here. It used to be called the Yoga Factory. And while I was practicing that night, you could pay like $3 for that. We don't even want to talk about what people are paying today. I don't know what's going on here in Philadelphia, but they're jerking people's chains big time. So anyway, back then, if you wanted a quick like 50 to 60 minutes of yoga, even though it wasn't like, it was called the Yoga Collective to help people come in who can't always pay the prices. So I go in, pay like $2 or $3, whatever. And during the yoga class, someone crashed a bunch of plates or whatever behind. This is off of Sansom Street. So whatever's behind that building where the yoga and Sherman Shoes is. And I was it's way up there on the third or fourth level where the collective is like on top of the place where you actually come into yoga. So it's like a 2-story yoga studio place. And that happened like within 24 to 48 hours after I crashed my bowl in my apartment. So it was like mocking, like, we know that you did this. So in a way, it's like mocking or creeping me out because people knew my business too much. And of course, in addition, when the Pope would show up, he actually threw in his speech, he threw in this thing about plates will fly. He's like, it's hard to stay in marriage. He was talking about marriages and stuff like that. And plates will fly, you'll be upset, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was interesting because that became a big thing. So anyway, those are some quick examples. I'll try to wrap it up and not keep it too long here. But these are, a few examples of the 72,000 layer cake of examples of things that kept going on 24/7. Every minute of every day, there was something going on to make sure that my brain was constantly in a state of like having to put up with all these people being morons. And stuff still happens today. Philly happens to be a big city where a lot of people are sketchier or willing to play along with something or don't have brains or whatever. But having gone to New York for 2.5 years, not living there, but commuting for school, some activity showed up there. I went to the new school to hurry up and get an MFA thinking that it would help me escape. But I feel like I was forced in that direction. Thank God for Biden putting on hold a bunch of student loans because mine did wind up in that group. I actually wound up in a class action suit. It went back and forth between a whole bunch of things. So anyway, it's out to sea somewhere, and rightfully so, because other people should be paying for that. Because I was forced to do it and they know it. And I didn't want to do it. And there's proof of that because I talked about it in a group therapy session of, I don't want to create another bill. I don't want to have to pay the man. I was more in this mind of, I don't want to have to pay the man. I was a little bit like that, like slightly anarchist, I guess. I don't want to pay the man and get an MFA. There's no point in getting an MFA unless you want to teach. Otherwise, anyway, I used it to my benefit and wrote the books, and I was able to re-exercise part of my brain to help me write books in the end and sort of explain in the best way that I can what happened through these books. So anyway, those are a few examples of, stuff that happened constantly. So that's it. Have a great day, and donate if you can. I really do need to lead a life. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that while putting up with a lot of bad and immature, very strange behavior. And it's surprising. Some of these people work in capacities where they shouldn't be working. So it does bother someone who's a normal, sensible person. Thank you.